Hi, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty. And today is Monday, December 19th.
We're a day late because we're lazy because of the holidays. We actually got our tree up yesterday and all that good stuff.
Yeah, maybe we'll
Cindy's
throw in
birthday.
a picture.
Say happy birthday to Cindy.
Well, thanks.
Christmas,
baby. It's not like I could really hear you, but thanks. Nice sentiment. And yeah, we're not positive. We'll probably do the same thing next week on Monday, or we'll see how much news there is next week.
Yeah, important stuff happening. So.
Very important stuff, yeah. And the first thing that Don wanted to comment on is the shutdown of the Iraq War. That troops are being pulled out, and
not a single American left. They're all gone.
Well, not quite. I'm sure they probably wish that in some quarters.
The embassy is the size of a small city. It's not, when you hear Iraq embassy, American embassy in Iraq, don't think it's like this little storefront or something. It's a small city, and within Baghdad, and it employs over 10,000 people.
Wow.
And something like 5,000 plus, in addition, 5,000 defense contractors. So we're really talking mercenaries here, to the tune of something like 16,000 people. So the American presence in Iraq is definitely continuing. And there is some question about how stable the Iraqi government is with Maliki being a puppet, and what's going to happen when the U.S. is gone, and will they continue to be able to prop him up and all of that. So we don't know. It just remains to be seen what's all going to happen there. But the strategy, and everybody's saying this, so this is not like any insider information, is that the U.S. Forces that have been there are now available to invade their neighbor sometime next year. And that's the plan if it doesn't get stopped and thwarted, and we're hopeful that it might. So we don't want World War III, which is probably what would begin to happen if we had a Israeli and or U.S. attack of Iran, the former Persian Empire, who are definitely different from Iraqis in terms of just their level of sophistication in the world. And they downed that spy drone and decided not to give it back until they'd acquired all the intelligence they could from it. And they were able to actually basically remote control it to the ground without damage. So these are really smart people. And it's just foolish to think that we could go in there and just because they're on paper a threat to Israel. Look, folks, they're not. They don't even really have, are not anywhere really close to nuclear weapons. They're not even really developing that. And it's all propaganda. And I mean, it really is. I'm sad to say that the military-industrial complex wants another huge war. The Rand Corporation says we need a war on the level of World War III. So let's grow up. Let's say no. Let's put the brakes on this thing. Best way I know of is to get Ron Paul in there because he knows what's going on.
Sure. Well, it's always the magician thing of watch this hand and don't watch what I'm doing over here, and a war facilitates that, so that if everybody's preoccupied with thinking about war, fear, terror, whatever, then they can do what they want behind the scenes. Yeah,
that's actually the reason that they have wars. Number one is to decrease the population so people are more easily controlled, to bring in the trauma and the distress so that people are concerned about their survival instead of the structure of their society. And that is how elites on record, they prefer wars as the proven method of being able to restructure society to their advantage. And it's no different in the buildup of this one, but people are waking up. That's the good sign. More and more people are seeing through this.
Yeah, hopefully you are. Another interesting thing that occurred recently was Max Keiser being on Alex Jones last week, and I always get the biggest kick out of Max Keiser, and we'll put the YouTube videos. On our website along with this video, so you can access them easily if you want. He said that Corzine had his life threatened.
Given an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By J.P. Morgan. And he evidently, the guy at J.P. Morgan, and I'm sure you know his name, said uh, do this or take the money out of your customers' accounts, or it's your life. So basically,
yeah, grade your customers in order to make good on your debt. Really, this is just loan sharking on a worldwide scale. It's just like, you better come up with the money, or we'll break your fingers and your toes and all kinds of things in between. And except that this guy's life was threatened unless he came with the money, and then we've got this alibi. Oh, I don't know where the money went. I mean, if anybody buys that for an instant, it's just so ridiculous.
Sure.
But I don't know the name of the J.P. Morgan guy. Well, I don't think Max Keiser said it either.
I think he did say it. I'm pretty sure he said it. I remember hearing it, but not recognizing it. Basically, the banks are, Don called them loan sharks. It's as if, the banks function in many respects the way the mafia functions.
Yeah.
It's do it our way, or let's fit you for some cement shoes.
Yeah, and with our society disintegrating, in a planned disintegration over the last few decades, they manifest more and more, and they get more and more brazen in what they're doing. So that's really what's happening. And I've been reading a little bit, and we'll get into this too, the more of Benjamin Fulford and his perspective on being in Asia with the major financial institution or magazine Forbes, and knowing all these insiders. And now then he discovered 9/11 Truth, and things got really amazing from there. And he talks about that Bretton Woods agreement was really the minority view on how the world should be structured and monetized, etc. You had 77 plus nations, excuse me, most of the Asian nations at that time were all opposed to it. And then, as of now, most of the world's gold, I never knew this before this morning, is actually in Asia, according to Fulford. And that's what a lot of World War II was about, to try to get this gold. And they've been really wise in acquiring gold. And you have reports that we know about, excuse me, of patriot groups and whatnot being promised gold. And oftentimes there's an Asia connection, or there's some kind of an anti-globalist connection. And these are all groups that are, I'm thinking more and more that they're the majority. Now it's 177 nations that are opposed to this global cabal bankster mafia that's running the world.
That's fabulous.
It's really encouraging when you start to look at that the groups that are opposed to this. They see stuff like the National Defense Authorization Act going down in America, and they know that they're going to be helping the people to resist the tyranny of the government. Here.
May it be.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, that's all very good stuff. And there are some promising things. I think that a part of the aspect of what they're doing, as we talked about last year with the Devil's Messiah plan and many other things, the propaganda, they're using it to... Last week.
Last week, yeah.
They're using it to terrify us and keep us in fear. And there are some good things that are happening.
Yeah. And if you haven't looked into 9/11, that's a major aspect of what 9/11 is all about. It's national trauma on such a deep level, and if you look at it and you look into it, you get shocked and horrified because you realize that the bad guys are right there in the house. There's no escaping the inside job thing. So we haven't mentioned that in a while. I just want to mention it again. It doesn't do a whole lot of good to try to convince you of it just us here saying what's going on. You've got to do your own investigation. We encourage you to do that because it was a national trauma. And if you don't face it, you are actually experiencing and under the control of post-traumatic stress disorder, and our whole nation is in many respects, although many people are coming out of it, waking up. That's what waking up is about. It's about coming out of this mass hypnosis that was trauma-induced.
And then there's so much of that, like for instance, breast cancer, hearing about Run for the Cure, and all constantly barraged with breast cancer, until it becomes, this huge problem in everybody's mind. And we've heard of this great cure for cancer that's baking soda, molasses, and water.
Yeah.
And we'll put up a link to that video on YouTube as well. And so many of the things that we've been made to be afraid of aren't really that threatening.
A guy actually, on record did cure himself using that. So yeah, it's not just
yeah,
an idea.
Stage 4 prostate
yeah,
in his bones, bone cancer.
Yeah,
so
it's just amazing. It's all about pH too. pH kills cancer is the guy's website.
Yeah, it's great, great stuff.
So yeah,
don't be afraid.
The whole idea is that you have to wrap your mind around the level of very, very evil people in positions of very high control. And the way they work is not to outright be evil and go, "Mwah." They appear...
Although I think Dick Cheney probably does that sometimes in the mirror.
Well, they know how to put on the smiling face. These are the sincerest psychopaths and con artists that the world has ever seen, but they're operating at a level of deep, deep evil. And what they do is they create the problem in secret so that you won't find out it's them, and then they pose as the saviors and offer the solution, which enslaves people and draws them into the web that they've spun. So that goes on at all kinds of levels, and that's what we're encouraging you to investigate anything that is a major source of bondage in the world, health or politics or finance or
anything you're
religion.
afraid of, look at it carefully.
All of those areas, this is huge.
It is huge. And one of the people who might possibly look in the mirror and go, "Mwah!" is Newt Gingrich. I submit that possibility to you. And the race with Ron Paul is getting very close.
And Newt Gingrich has fallen off as people have begun to see who he is. I mean, the American people are discerning once they're given half a chance, and once the facts get out there. Alex Jones on record says the guy's a psychopath, and he's extreme evil. Look into his eyes, and you'll see it. You can find one or two well-promoted photos where he looks like a nice man, but it's not hard to catch him in an honest pose and where you see into his soul, and this is, as Cindy likes to say, not a caring nurturer.
Yeah, and the eyes are the window of the soul, so watch people's eyes.
So when I run into Christians that think, or even just nice, trusting people that say, well, we really need to get Obama out of there, so and he's a good speaker, so we need to get somebody that's a good speaker, and gosh, Newt Gingrich is a good speaker, so maybe we better go with him. No, you're falling into the trap.
Yeah, going with a good speaker, that's reminds me of Ronald Reagan a little bit, and some of you are probably Ronald Reagan fans.
He said a lot of great things. Unfortunately, if you actually look at what happened behind the scenes and what was betrayed, you find a different story, and Charlotte Iserby is an excellent source on that, so I'll refer you to her.
Yeah. And Pirl Culture, we did see one remarkable movie this week, and that was Richard III. That was excellent.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's talk about psychopaths. This is a Shakespeare play, and putting this in context, this is something sort of new idea to me. And although if you're into literature, this will not be new. This will be old news, but Shakespeare and those plays in the Elizabethan era were the common people's opportunity to get their dig at royalty and to see the elites for who they really were. They are not generally portrayed in a good light, and Richard III was Shakespeare's, I believe, first play, and he does a major expose of the psychopathic character. And it's just not a historical figure. But the interesting thing about Richard III that we watched, and I can't remember the date of this film, I was with him in the last 10 years or so, it's set in 1930s England, which is openly fascistic in the midst of a civil war. So you have a very interesting setting for the Shakespearean dialogue, and this character is evil on every level, and he knows he's evil. And that's the interesting thing about it. But you also get to see how the supporters will support him even though they know he's evil, even though they have visions of him as being like a beast. So,
because they're afraid of him. He kills people that cross him.
Yeah. It's all about fear. It's all about psychopathic rulership of fear. So Richard III. Yeah.
Very good. So any parting thoughts this Christmas week?
be encouraged. We're excited that things are being exposed. 2012 has long been portrayed as being this era of doom, and things are going to get rough. But I see just really hopeful signs that we're waking up from our trance and in the dawn of something new and exciting. Not without hard times, but it's encouraging.
Some kind of a positive shift.
Mm-hmm.
So we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And hope that you have a wonderful week preparing for Christmas, and we'll probably see you next week.